الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وبعد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I hope and pray that you are all doing well by the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep you and your loved ones happy and united with Iman, with taqwa. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. This session we have monthly. The purpose is to discuss some of the questions that I am receiving. And that is why I call it the pulse, because it helps me, it gives me an idea regarding the pulse of the community, about what is happening. And one of the things, recurring questions, is regarding children, particularly teenagers, and misbehavior. Now, of course, the thing is that when our children are good, mashallah, we are not facing any challenges, we don't have any struggles, then there's no need to ask for help. There is no need to, go and share your situation. So, mashallah, many of the children in our community are, in fact, all of our children are, mashallah, good children at heart. And in many families, the situation is not critical enough to ask help for. But at the same time, from time to time, there may be situations where the challenges get too great. And then it is a good idea to go and to seek help. So whenever someone comes, and I know it's not easy to seek help, especially for a personal family situation. So whenever someone comes and seeks help, I always appreciate that, right? Because it means that you are concerned and you are trying to do something positive about that concern. When it comes to our children, of course, are a great gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In some cultures, perhaps in this society, marriage, having a family, having children, is seen as a burden, right? So when a person is young, they say, well, you want to enjoy life, and then once you have enjoyed life a bit, then you should start a family, then you should think about children, then you should think about marriage. But this is not the Islamic way, right? We see children as blessings, as gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even societal, it's actually very interesting. Used to living, I'm someone who's used to living in a Western society. I was born and raised here. If I go to an Eastern culture, for example, if I go to Mecca and Medina, right, the way that people treat children, my children, especially when they were young, is very different. Sometimes it's even shocking, right? Like a stranger is just walking by and they'll just pick up the kid, right? And then you panic. You're like, what if they abduct the child and what if they kidnap them? Because that's what you're thinking. But no, they just want to like carry the kid and just like play with the child and then they give it back, right? Or someone just like passing by and then they just like, play with your child, kiss them, touch them, something. Things we're not used to here, but there it's something which is quite common, right? So we see children as as blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I don't want to generalize. I mean, inshallah, there's people here as well, who also value families and also value children. And of course, at the end of the day, all parents love their children, right? So we love our children, and when our children are growing up, there is so much effort that goes into raising them. There is so much cost that goes into raising them, right? There is so much energy that goes into raising them, from the diapers to the sleepless, nights, to the sickness. Like there's so much, right? School and like all through all the stages of life, especially when a child is young. So you put so much into the child, and then when the child grows older, especially when children enter into the teenage years, they start to change. Right? And sometimes parents feel that our child is not our child anymore. Right? And the reality is actually, yes, they're not your child anymore. They are your teenager now, right? Meaning they are not your baby anymore. right? So the person is the same, and of course they will always remain your child, but child in the sense of being a young kid, they're not like that anymore, right? So as a child is growing up and they become, especially when they get into their teen years, obviously there's a lot of changes that are taking place. There's a lot of changes that are taking place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put, but also in terms of society, in terms of their exposure to things, in terms of their intake, what they're taking in from media, from social media, in terms of what they're hearing at school, the types of things that their peers are talking about, their interests. So everything is changing. Their mind is growing. There's so many things that are happening. And subhanAllah, I don't know what it is. Sometimes I think about it. Maybe this is not the right way to do it, the way we do it here. But there is so much pressure that is put on the children. And subhanAllah, I really feel bad for our youth. My heart really goes out to them because with all these changes that are happening, it's already confusing, right? Like hormones are messed up. Like there's all this stuff that's already naturally like, you know, uh, creating challenges. And then on top of that, there's pressure with regards to education. There's pressure because you have to make sure that they do all their education and get everything right so that they're set up for life. So all of that pressure is there. Then the societal pressure is there. The peer pressure is there. And of course, the expectations are there that they're going to continue to be just as close and committed and loyal as they were when they were young children and they used to hug us and sleep with us or play with us or so all of those. So there the in re- and on top of that, there is the added pressure that our youth face, that Muslim youth face as minorities, as Muslims, that perhaps others don't, right? With regards to our deen, with regards to the do's and don'ts, with regards to the choices they have to make or they need to navigate. And all these pressures, like I was thinking about it today, I don't even know if adults could actually handle it properly, right? Like there's even adults who struggle with not even all these pressures. So what youth are going through and what teenagers have to go through is actually very, very challenging. So before we talk about misbehavior, this is the first thing to understand that when our children become teenagers, become youth, especially in this society, I mean, it's a global phenomenon now, but especially in this society, they're actually under a lot of pressure and they're going through a lot of changes. And it's actually quite difficult, even if they don't show it, but it's actually very difficult. Okay, and when a person goes through difficulty, when a person goes through stress and anxiety, right, with all these different courses and exams and all of these things, and all the other pressures I talked about, it comes out in some way. Okay, now I'm not trying to justify bad behavior or disrespectful behavior, but I'm just trying to create the context so that we can approach the situation in the right manner or in the most effective manner. That being said, right, the challenges with regards to children have always existed. They have always existed, right? We have the example of the son of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, right? The son of a prophet. Okay. That wasn't in the 21st century. That wasn't in the Western world, right? And he was the son of a prophet, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides. And when our children become baligh, right? When they hit puberty, when they become mature, Islamically they are adults. Islamically they are adults, and then they are accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Our job as parents is preparing them for that time. Preparing them for that time. So for parents who struggle with misbehavior, I actually want to give you hope because there's something beautiful I heard many, many years ago when I was much younger, when I was studying, a youth expert, not a Muslim, on CBC radio. I probably mentioned it before. But he said every youth is going to go through some struggle and some challenge. Okay, when you think about yourself, think about ourselves when we were young. There was stuff we went through, right? There were challenges, there were struggles. Illa mashallah, except a few people maybe who were like perfect and they had no challenges, no issues. But people go through all types of stuff when they're younger. Okay. So what he said was all youth are going to go through some struggles and some challenges, some ups and downs. However, once they snap out of it, right? Once they get out of that phase, so it does end at some point. When they get out of it, the ones who've had a foundation built for them are going to be able to land on that foundation. And this is why the lead up to the youth or the teenage years is the most critical, right? The time that we spend with our children when they're younger, the relationship that we build with our children, the relationships we build with our children when they're younger, the love that we give them when they're younger, right? The ability to distinguish between right and wrong that we develop inside of them when they're younger, right? The conversations that we have with them, the curiosity that we help, develop and answer, especially when it comes to questions about deen, questions about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, questions about why we do some things and why we don't do some things, right? Previous generations, maybe ourselves or our parents' generations, right? The culture was you don't ask questions. You don't ask whys. There's no reason to ask a why, right? Like a why question, why do we do this or why don't we do that is a bad thing. Like you just don't ask about whys. Just do it. It's like sami'na wa ata'na, right? Like we heard and we obey and that's it, right? There's no questions. But now it's the total opposite, right? Children are taught, right, to ask questions, to have curiosity, to know, to want to know the why about everything. So having those conversations and developing that ability to distinguish between right and wrong and have a better understanding, that plus the loving relationship, the care, all of those things, the investments we make earlier on when our children are, more easily controllable, right? When they don't have as many, options, when they're not facing as many challenges, right? So those investments, they come in handy during they're actually critical for the teenage years. Okay. So if we've built that foundation, right, there is the effort, there is the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, right? The effort and the dua, and after that, you leave it up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? However, there are certain tricks or certain tips that can help us when the situation gets a little tough. Now, every child is different, right? So you can't generalize. However, right, there are certain things that we find when there is misbehavior, right? Um, one of the things we want as parents, right? One of the things we want, of course, is respect. And, um, you know, defining misbehavior actually, right, is where we should probably start. So what is actually misbehavior? We are looking for our children to respect us, to deal with us in the same way, but they're not children anymore, right? They are not children anymore. So what happens is we are continuing to treat them as we are used to doing when they are younger, we as parents, but there is a natural tension because the child is growing up and is on their way to becoming an adult. And naturally, they want more of everything. They want more freedom. They want more choice. They want more things. They want, less rules. All the things that they desire, they want more of. And on the other hand, as parents, parents generally are still dealing with them in the same way as when they were younger, right? So that creates a natural conflict. So one of the things that we could actually do is try to understand what are the things that my child is going to want to do as they grow up. Yes, they're going to want to have a cell phone. They're going to want to have technology. They're going to want to go out with their friends. They're going to want to drive at some point. They're going to want to work at some point. So all of those things that you feel they're going to probably want to do, if you actually plan that out preemptively before they even ask and give them a roadmap, give them something to look forward to, set milestones, and say, okay, if I'm going to start off with this lower level, okay, and if everything goes okay, then I will loosen the restrictions, and then if everything still goes okay, then we'll move up. Okay, so you give a gradual pathway, right? You show them the roadmap, and that gives them something to look forward to, and it also offers clarity. Because one of the things that really, I mean, there's a few things that teenagers really don't like. Okay, there's a few things they really don't like. Okay, they want their nobody wants to be lectured. Okay, number one, they don't want to be nagged. Okay, so if you're like constantly trying to remind them or tell them things, even though your intentions are good, it's actually not going to help, right? Because you're actually annoying them further. So if they're already irritated, if they're already stressed out, it's probably not going to help. It's just going to make it worse. Um, Privacy is a big one. So of course, when our children are younger, who cares about their privacy, right? Because they're children, they're our babies. But when they grow older, you know, not having their own space, that can become a source of a source of tension. The one of the things that they do want actually is us to still love them, even though they act like they might rebuff it, or they may act like they don't want it because it's not cool, or like it's not they don't want to show interest in it, they don't want to admit it, but actually across the board, teenagers, right, still need love, right? They desire, they just don't want to admit it. Okay, so showing love and care is something that can go a long way. I want to share with you a very interesting article titled Seven Things Teenagers Desperately Need Adults to Understand. This was shared by fellow Imam Tahir in California, and quite interesting. So, this is all the words of a teenager. Every day is a prison, trapped inside this changing body, repeating the same day over and over. My whole life is made up of things I have to do, not the things I want to do. Tests, quizzes, reading assignments, papers, group projects. I spend the entire day with people I'm forced to be with, teenagers who feel just as messed up as me. Sometimes my feelings get hurt at school by teachers, counselors, but mostly by other students. I don't tell you this because I'm ashamed to feel hurt. I don't want you to know how hurt I feel all the time. My whole life has become I don't want to. I don't want to wake up. I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. I can't think of a single thing that I want to do except sleep. It's the only time I'm not stressing, the only time I'm not worried, the only time I'm not upset. Sometimes I hide in my room and binge watch Netflix or YouTube or silly videos over and over because I can't stand to be with my own thoughts. I'm distracting myself from me. Does that sound crazy? And yes, I know my room is a mess. I like it that way. It looks how I feel inside. And please don't ask me what's wrong because I don't know. I don't know where these feelings came from. I know that you're mad at me. I can't blame you. I stopped talking to you. Sometimes I say such mean things to you, horrible things. I blame you, push you away. Sometimes I break things because I feel broken inside. It wasn't always this way. When I look at old photos of me in elementary school, I see a little kid who was so happy all the time. A little kid who loved to play, who loved to be silly, who didn't care what people thought. I feel like that little kid is dead. I'm going to tell you something now that's hard to say. Please listen because I really mean it. Don't give up on me. Don't hate me back. I need you to be stronger than me. I need you to be my parent, even though I say I don't want one. I need you to be more patient than I can be, more understanding, more accepting. Even when I'm yelling at you, even when I tell you that I don't like you or get upset, I still need you to love me. And if I could tell you how to help me, this is what I would say. Number one, give me space. Don't come in my room, corner me, or make demands. I don't have any answers. When you push me or yell at me, I feel worse. I need to be alone. I need to have space. Number two, don't yell at me. The noise in my head is so loud sometimes that I can barely hear my own thoughts. I can't stand it. When you yell, I feel worse about myself. I feel unloved. I feel like I'm your biggest disappointment. Number three, take my electronics away. I can't put my phone down. I try, but I just can't. I know it's devouring all my time, but I can't help myself. I can't stop checking it. I need your help. I need you to set limits on technology, please. I will fight you, but it's what I need. Don't try to reason with me, just do it. Number four, bring me someplace quiet. I say I don't want anything to do with you, but if you could bring me somewhere quiet, somewhere we could walk together and not argue, somewhere I can feel the sun and listen to the wind in the trees, somewhere I can breathe and forget about everything that's bothering me. I think I would like that. Even if we don't speak, I will feel comforted. Number five, stop spoiling me. Stop giving me everything I want. The more you give me, the more I resent you. I want to earn things. It helps me feel grown up. I want to learn how to save money, spend money, share money. And I'm never going to learn that if you keep giving it to me. I hate being dependent on you, so please help me become independent. Number six, find me someone to talk to. I need someone to look up to who is not you. I need an adult to admire, someone I want to be like, a person who believes in me, who pushes me, who understands me. a mentor, a counselor, a therapist, anyone who can give me hope when I have too little for myself. Number 7, finally, tell me that you love me. I pretend not to care, but I really need to hear your words, I love you, because right now I don't love me. Even though I'm making your life miserable or difficult, I still need to feel loved, especially by you. And it ends by, I guess that's it. I know that being a parent is really hard. Sometimes you probably wonder why you did it, but I'll get better, I promise. I'll get older and we'll enjoy each other again. Until then, understand that I appreciate you. I may not say it often, but I still love you. So that is, you know, from a from the perspective of a teenager, right? So in terms of uh, challenges, right? Sometimes they get very serious. Sometimes the behavior gets very serious, and parents, come and they're they're in a very desperate situation. Perhaps, they are crying and they don't know what to do. And at that point, usually what's happening is that the parents are trying to force or enforce rules which are not being followed, which are not being respected. And there's a very critical line there, okay? And that line is that teenager getting up and leaving and saying, I can't take this anymore, and I'm gone, okay? And that's a very critical line. So as the situation starts approaching that line, and it happens, right? When it starts getting to that line, you have to be very careful, because as you get closer to that line, you ask yourself, okay, in the big picture, like, yes, okay, my rules are not being followed. I may feel I'm being disrespected. There's this that's wrong. There's that that's wrong. But at the end of the day, is my child really going to be better off if they walk away and run away from home? Right? And in many cases, the answer is probably not, right? Of course, there's some exceptions, but probably not, right? So then all of a sudden, guess what happens? All of those rules and everything that was, all the stick approach, I mean, not literally, but the stick approach changed to the carrot approach, right? Because of the carrot and the stick, right? So all of a sudden, like trying to put all these rules and trying to, force and all these fights and everything. But then when that line starts coming closer about that risk, then all of a sudden it becomes, okay, well, you know what? Just stay. It's okay. Then we'll tolerate everything, right? So yes, rules are important and it can be challenging. And yes, our children should be respecting our rules, but we have to be very careful that it doesn't get to the point where, them running away becomes a real possibility. Because if that happens, then Allah knows best as to where they're going to end up, what kind of situation they're going to be in, who they're going to be with. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of our children and make it easy for families who are in that situation. So one of the things that we want to do is continue to support, right, our children. Realize that if children are misbehaving and they're acting up, there's a reason behind that probably. Okay, there's something that is causing that. Sometimes it's as simple as, if for people who are connected to the community, right? Sometimes it can be as simple as taking them somewhere, bringing them here, bringing them someone that they trust, and having a conversation, right? Allowing them to share what is actually happening, and having someone else say the same message, right? Sometimes if we as parents say something, it has zero effect. But if someone else says it, then it has an effect, right? Same thing happened between husband and wife as well, right? Okay, you say something to your wife says something to you, it's the same thing, you just tune it out, you don't hear it, you don't want to believe it, whatever, you don't listen to it. But somebody else says it, then you take it from a different perspective, right? So seeking help, and that means being connected to the community, and this is why we always emphasize, being connected to the community, having connection with the masjid, having connection with the people around the masjid, having a healthy social circle. Right? All of these things are critical because it creates an environment of support. And it creates an environment of support for your child, or if not for your child, then at least for you. Right? Somewhere where you can go for some advice, somewhere where you can go for some help. What I want to emphasize is that As I said earlier, if you've done your homework, you've built that foundation, and you hit a rough patch, don't think it's the end of the world. Don't panic too much, right? Always remain calm. And inshallah, this difficult patch is going to be like turbulence. When you're on a flight, right? When you're on a long flight for a few hours, what happens? Sometimes you run into turbulence, right? The plane shakes, it seems a little scary. And after some time, a short amount of time, it passes. And when you look at the entire journey, the turbulence is only a short portion of it, or a small period of the journey. So inshallah, if you've done your work and you are trying, you've done your homework in the beginning, you're trying your best, then inshallah, that turbulence, in most cases will pass, inshallah. So always have good hopes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and try to, be a positive influence, right, in your child's life, even if they are making the wrong choices. At the end of the day, we cannot control our children forever, right? We control them when they are young, but of course, as they grow older, they become independent. They are answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their deeds, and we are not always going to be with them. And one of the ways that they're going to learn how to make the right choices is by making mistakes. So if they make a mistake, right, understand that yes, this is part of the process. Go over the mistake. A lot of times we react emotionally. That doesn't help, right? But trying to discuss afterwards calmly. Say, okay, this is what happened. What did we learn from this? Why did it happen? What can we do better next time? So playing a supportive role, right, as opposed to a policing role, right? So it's more of being a coach than being, a parent, like to a young child, or someone who is there with, constantly overlooking and guiding, like with more authority. So we don't need that during the teenage years. It's more about coaching and supporting, right? Yes, mistakes will be made. A major one, right? A major one I was reading is being focused on effort as opposed to results. Being focused on effort as opposed to results. Because we know, even as Muslims, we know that the results are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Perhaps your child is making a great effort, but they're just not able to achieve something. Right? Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not written it for them. Whether it's a particular course, or a goal that they have, or a profession or an activity or whatever it is. Right? So you can't fault someone if they're trying their best. Right? And this is one of the major reasons for poor mental health and struggle, right, that youth go through, is because there's too much pressure to achieve results that they're not able to achieve. Right? So my philosophy is very simple. And I tell my kids, I'm like, okay, all I'm cared about is effort. Okay, if I know you're making the effort, if you don't make the effort and then you don't achieve results, or you have poor results, then that's a problem. Okay, then I'm concerned. But if you're making an effort, and I know you're making a good effort, a tremendous effort, but you're still having a challenge, then it's okay. Like, I don't really care what your marks are, honestly, as long as you are trying your best, as long as you're doing everything you can. If you need help, I can get you help, I can support you, but just try your best, right? Try your best and leave for Allah the rest, as I always say, right? So this is one way of decreasing that pressure, right? That way, our youth, our teenagers know that we are supporting them, right? We are with them, right? And the little things also matter. So a favorite food, little things, little things, packing something special for lunch, a special food that they like, little things that show that you care, right? They may not want to reciprocate it, they may not say it, they may not show it, but those things do have an effect. And it's, at the end of the day, it's the strength of the relationship that holds it together, right? If you truly love your children and your children know that, right, and you have a strong, healthy relationship, right, your child, your teen will think twice, will think many times before doing something if they know it's going to hurt you or it's going to disappoint you, right? So it is critical to develop a healthy and positive relationship, a supporting relationship, and know that they are different individuals, right? Yes, you're a part of one family. Yes, they are your children, but at the end of the day, that's another person, right? People think differently, so they might have different opinions on things, right? And that's okay, right? Even when it comes to religious matters, sometimes people get upset. Once I was called to someone's house, they said, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my son. He's getting misguided." I don't know what to do. So I said, okay. So I went over, I talked to the boy, talked to the kid, young man. You know. There was nothing. He just started listening to some lectures from another sheikh. Okay, it was nothing serious at all, like nothing. Okay, absolutely zero concern. Yeah. But parents are panicking, right? Like there's something wrong. I mean, it's good that they were concerned, but it was unnecessary panicking, right? And it's good that they sought help as well. Not this, obviously, you should do that. But what I mean is, don't expect 100% conformity or 100% uniformity in everything, because they're going to have their own likes and dislikes. They're going to have their own choices. They have their own experiences. They have their own environment that they're being raised in. So of course, there's going to be some things which are going to be different. So we have to be realistic, be respectful of opinions. Have mature discussions, right? Have discussions. If it's not going well, okay, then leave it at that point. But at the end of the day, dealing with teenagers is going to require us, as the teenager wrote, to have more patience and to take the higher road, right? We can't respond in the same way, right? Maintain that relationship, continue to make dua, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help them, will guide them, and inshallah, they will overcome the struggle, the challenge that they are facing. When you face challenges and struggles, right, know that it's probably for a reason, and try to make it as easy as possible instead of making it more difficult. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us as parents and guide us in raising our children and dealing with our children in the best way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our children lighthouses of Iman, even better than us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them rising Iman and taqwa. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. I deal with many of our youth, as you know, and mashallah, I'm very proud of them. I know that even in the public schools, many of them are trying to organize together and create MSAs and get Muslim clubs going. They're trying to establish salah. They're trying to do things. Yes, there are troubles. There are challenges. They have struggles with identity. All of those things are there. Like I know that. But I don't expect perfection. Right? I don't expect perfection. Right? Because I know it's a struggle. I know it's not easy. Right? But the best thing we can do is plant those seeds and be supportive along the way, and encourage them, overlook their shortcomings, and continue to encourage things which are positive, even if they're small. Right? Something good, find something good and encourage it. Continue encouraging, and inshallah, with positivity and encouragement, we will be able to uplift them so that they can overcome the struggles and the challenges. By the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bidhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan for joining in person and online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala.